What's good, everybody? Skywalking with Wetz. I'm gonna be breaking down UFC 306 Noche. I went 2 for 2 on my predictions. Things didn't go as planned for some of the fighters that I was pulling for, but it is what it is. That's the name of the game. Things don't always go as planned, and you know it's the fight game. Things happen. But first off, make sure to subscribe to my Facebook. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube. I really appreciate all the help. Like this video. Let me know what you could do. I appreciate y'all. But kind of getting into the UFC 306 Noche, just kind of breaking it down. I went Rosas Jr. I went Diego Lopez. I went then who else did I go? I went Alexa Grasso, and then I went Sean O'Malley. And I don't know if y'all tuned into the fights. It was absolute banger. The UFC Sphere was absolutely insane. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. The card, a little underwhelming for, a Sphere event. Maybe the Sphere event should have been UFC 300, in my opinion. But, things happen. Scheduling happens. It is what it is. But I went Rosas, Lopez, O'Malley, and Alexa Grasso. I started off the night 2-0. Raul Rosas Jr. fighting against the Mongolian murderer. He won a unanimous decision, 3 rounds to nothing. He just mauled the guy that sat on the guy's back the whole time. And that's just kind of what it was. I thought it might have been a little more of a dominating, performance for Raul, but it is what it is. He did what he needed to do. It looks like he went against the vet, and I think that's exactly what you have to do with a guy like Raul. You have to put him against people and build him up. He went versus a guy who's 12 years older than him, and he got the unanimous decision to start off the card. As we go into the Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez fight, kind of went as expected. I did say that you can't really bet against Brian Ortega, but shoot, man, Diego Lopez low-key made it look easy. He looked like he's ready for this. He looked like he's ready to take that next step in his career. He almost knocked out Brian Ortega in the first round. I believe, and I saw some videos, he knocked him out with the right jab, right hook, whatever it was, and then he brought him back to consciousness with the left uppercut. And it was just like, wow. And he just he got the unanimous decision the whole time. I mean, he got the unanimous decision all 3 rounds. It looked like he was just dominating the whole fight. After he kind of rocked Ortega in the first round, it didn't look like Brian could bounce back. And I love Brian Ortega. He's a warrior. He made it all 3 rounds, all the way to the end. But you know what? Diego Lopez, he's on the train. He has the momentum going. He jumped from rank 10 to number 3. Ortega bounced down to 4 or 5. So at that point of the night, I went 2-0. I went 2-0, and I was feeling good about my predictions. I was like, you know what? Maybe I got something right here. But get into the last 2 fights. I see it in the chat. Hunt said that the fight sucked. Title fight sucked. UFC did a poor job planning for the Sphere. Yeah, I think they could have stacked that card a little bit more. But for Mexican independence, why not honor the Mexican people? Why not honor the Mexican people and show them love and give them their own card? Like Dana White's been on record numerous times saying, hey, these are the toughest people on the planet, and he has nothing but respect for these people. So getting into the first title fight of the night, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. It was a domination, in my opinion, by Valentina. Valentina had 193 significant strikes to Grasso's 153. She had 45 significant strikes to Grasso's 18. 38 to the head, 3 to the body, 4 to the legs. And this is what really stood out to me. On the ground, Grasso had 49 seconds of control time, and Shevchenko had 16 minutes and 4 seconds of control time. on 8 takedowns. She connected on 8 out of 12 takedowns. To Grasso's 1 out of 4. The thing is, Grasso did put her in a couple positions for maybe a possible submission, but it just wasn't enough. Valentina looked like the vet she is. Grasso just looked like she didn't have the answers. I don't want to say she looked flat, but she just didn't have the answers for the champ. And like I said in my predictions, I was going Grasso because I thought it was going to be a new era of that weight division. But you know what? At the end of the day, the vet got it done. Valentina Shevchenko is now the champion once again in the women's flyweight division. And again, I said, like, hey, don't be surprised if Shevchenko gets the job done. I predicted maybe a possible knockout or TKO or something, but she took Grasso down and she just dominated the whole fight. She got in a couple jams, but she got out and she made it and she survived. Yeah, and either or couldn't get the submission. Shevchenko didn't attempt a submission. I think her game plan was, let's get her on the ground, let's ride her, and let's just beat her up the whole fight. She, like I said, she got in a couple jams, but she came out on top, and she was the underdog, slight underdog. But then that's when on the night I was 2-1 on my predictions. It is what it is. We can't win them all. And getting to the title fight here, the bantamweight title, Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. Odds were almost damn near even. Man, the Montana boy, he couldn't get it done. Turns out, coming into the fight, he had a torn labrum in his hip. People were kind of saying throughout the fight he looked flat, and I think that plays a big part. Coming from a guy who had a torn labrum in his hip, man, that's not an easy injury to play with, dude. I remember playing ball, and I had a torn labrum at the time. I didn't know, but there was times where like even my knee would lock up on the bus when I'd travel and I'd sit in certain positions. It was just really uncomfortable. I had a hard time cutting. I had a hard time moving laterally because every time you move laterally, that ball and socket joint, it just pushes right into that tear depending where his tear's at. And so that makes a lot of sense why he didn't have a lot of pop. But Merab got the unanimous decision, dude. 46-49, 47-48, 47-48. He got the job done. He had 214 total strikes compared to O'Malley's 49. And if you told me that would have been the disparity after the fight of O'Malley would only get 49 total strikes off, I would have said you're on drugs. Go get piss tested. Go find Jesus. Go find God. Go find something, because I did not see that coming. But that is just what it is, right? I mean, shoot. Merab got the job done, dude. Significant strikes, 82-47. 55 to the head, 4 to the body, 23 to the legs. O'Malley had 22 to the head, 23 to the body, 2 to the legs. Merab had 10 minutes of ground control, 6 out of 15 takedowns, 0 submission attempts. But that being said, 6 out of 15 takedowns leading the 10 minutes is a lot. But at the same time, it shows O'Malley on a bad hip was still able to fend off Merab at least to his best abilities. I honestly think Sean maybe won round 4 or 5. He had Merab running at the end. He had Merab running in that 5th round. He hurt Merab. They got to run it back down the road, but it's hard for me to think, like, dude, a healthy Sean, I think it's a different fight. It has to be a different fight. You go in with the torn labrum in your hip, man, like that's hard to fight with, especially against a guy who's pinning you up against the cage. You got to explode off your legs to get up, all of that, man. It definitely plays a factor. And just looking at the numbers, O'Malley was just he just wasn't on his game, dog. And that's the name of the game. But you also have to tip your hat off to Sean, dude. Like, going in, fighting, didn't pull out. You got to tip your hat to that, because dudes pull out for even smaller things than that. And so Merab is now the new bantamweight champion. It makes sense. I mean, he had a shot whether O'Malley was healthy or not. He had a shot to win that fight, but I want to see him run it back. Seems like Sean's out for another, who knows, year. I would say a year. With the labrum, I remember when I had my surgery with the labrum, you're non-weight bearing for at least a month. You're non-weight bearing at least a month. You're on crutches. You're laid up for at least 2 weeks. Like, I was told, don't really try and do too much. Expect just to hang out, watch movies. You can't shower, like you got to take sponge baths. Like, it's not an easy injury. And up to 3 months after my stuff, I was still not able to run and do those kinds of things. Granted, I don't have the facilities and resources that Sean has. He could probably cut that time down a little bit, but my advice, he's never going to hear this, he's never going to listen to anything I have to say, but like, my advice is just take your time with it, dude. It's not something to play around with, because what I was told with the labrum is, look, you're never going to be 100% again. At least that's what they told me, especially where my tear was and my situation. I don't know what Sean's is or the severity of it. And hopefully they caught it early enough so there wasn't more damage being caused on that tear through training and stuff. I'm curious to when that tear happened. But I wouldn't mind him sitting out a year. He's still young, and it's the fight game. Sometimes, that break, save your brain, save your body, and just recoup and recover mentally and physically. But it is what it is. Your boy went 2-2 on his predictions. I think Grasso's definitely going to bounce back. Don't be surprised down the road she's going to get that title once Valentina hangs it up, and O'Malley's going to come back. But for Merab, shoot, we got to give hats off to Merab. He did what he's supposed to do. But one thing that stuck out to me with Merab is in the post-fight press conferences, it seems like he was ducking Umar. And I think Umar's kind of that boogeyman in the division where not a lot of people wanted to see him. I think Shook was ready to see him. Like that was going to be either one of them is going to be their next fight. And Umar is the boogeyman. He could do it all. He could strike and he can wrestle. He's that Dagestani dude. They don't mess around. Hunt saying in the chat, Sugar throws more body and defends 2 takedowns, might be different. Absolutely. It could have been a different fight. And again, he hurt Merab in that last round. He hurt Merab. Merab was running around. He didn't want the smoke. But then, it is what it is. But it's interesting to see because you had Aljamain in Merab's corner. And as we know, Tim Welch, shout out Great Falls High Bison, Tim Welch over in the corner. In the middle of the fight, I don't know if y'all caught this in the first round. I don't know how you didn't catch it. Herb Deem stepped in and gave a warning to Merab and gave a warning to Tim Welch and just saying stop talking in the corner, all that stuff, because there's some controversy of how Tim was talking during the Aljamain Sterling fight, and you had Aljo in one corner helping his buddy who, Aljamain got knocked out by Sean, so he kind of had some kind of background on how to help Merab, but then you had Tim in the other corner, one of the great geniuses in the MMA game. But yeah, your boy, UFC Noche, I feel like it was dope, but your boy went 2-0. But I'm going to talk a little bit about just the atmosphere and the environment I had. I was out in DC. I was at this sports book, and they had these big TVs up. It was awesome. And just from like the consumer's point of view, like watching it on TV and not being there physically, it was still dope to see. Herb Deem did go crazy the whole fight. Tell him to keep moving, stay active. I thought it was weird. He was telling that to Merab, and Hunt, you're not the only one. I think a lot of people thought that was weird. That he was trying to get. It seemed like he was trying to get the fight back on the feet. And Merab was just kind of controlling Sean on the ground, and people they didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that Herb was inserting himself so much. I'm not a UFC referee, but me being me and me loving the UFC, like I appreciate the wrestling piece, but I love it when it's on the feet. But that's not Merab's strong point. And so it was weird, but at the same time, it is what it is, right? I mean, O'Malley went down. But anyways, back to the Sphere. It was awesome to see the graphics, and even through the TV, it looked 3D. I couldn't imagine being there in person and like having that environment. And I hope Dana White down the road goes back and circles back to the Sphere, because you could absolutely stack a card. You could stack a card. I'm not saying this card was bad. Like, there was actually pretty good fights on there. Like, it was a banger card. The last 2 fights were probably the most boring fights of the night. You had a nasty cut earlier. It was the Aldana fight versus Norma Dumont. She had a nasty cut, but it seemed like it was just dope. It was dope to watch. I hope they do it again, and I hope they stack the piss out of the next one, but it'll probably be a long time before they do it, because it seems like you got to dump a lot of money to make something like that happen. But those are my predictions. Those are not my predictions. That's my reaction. That's my reaction to it. It was a dope card. The last 2 fights were a little underwhelming, but it's MMA, right? People wrestle, people do all kinds of things, and you can't really bash Merab or Valentina for taking the fights to the ground. Like, if that's what you got to do to win from like a competition standpoint, a competitive standpoint, why the hell not? You know what I mean? Like, why not get in there and do what you do and play to your strengths? But at the same time, for the viewers, I understand what Dana's saying. Like, you want to see action-packed, balls to the wall, like fighting and competition through the whole thing. And we didn't get those last 2 fights. We got the fights before. But you know, it's MMA. You got strikers, you got wrestlers, you got jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, you got all these other types of things out there. And a fighter's going to do what they got to do to win and retain their title or win a title. So, you know, that is what it is. Like, it sucks sometimes when your guy's getting ragdolled and just kind of thrown on the ground, but it's just the name of the game. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when John Jones fought Searle, I was like, oh man, I hope they stand on the feet and strike. But John Jones went straight for the takedown and choked him out. And that's what you do. And John Jones is the GOAT. He's won fights knocking people out. He's won fights choking people out. That's just the name of the game. And I think that's why we love it. But again, I totally understand like why people find that very underwhelming. And it is underwhelming because you're sitting there, you're watching it for 5 rounds, and you're just kind of like, oh my God. You know, I was sitting there with my cousin Christian. We're sitting there watching it, and you're just like, oh, there's another takedown. Oh, we're going to be here for another 2.5 minutes. You know, like, damn. But it's MMA, dog. Like, it is what it is. So there's that piece. And now I'm gonna talk a little NFL. I'm gonna talk a little NFL. Week 2 scores, week 2 thoughts, you know, and I kind of got a little beef with Stephen A. I got all the love for Stephen A. He's the reason why I watch First Take. He's a very entertaining person, but sometimes I feel like his takes stink. And so where I'm gonna go with this, man, I'm gonna go straight to where they at here. Oh, I'm in week 3. I'm gonna go straight to the Carolina Panthers. That whole situation with it. Hold on, let me get organized over here. Where are we at? Carolina Panthers versus the Chargers. They put up 3 points, dude. They're 0-2. That sucks. They put up 3 points. That's terrible. Let's look. Yo, Bryce Young. So let's start there. I've seen a lot of hate. People hating on Bryce Young. People saying he's a bust. Then this is where I'm going with it. Stephen A. Smith came out, I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, and he said we might be looking at one of the biggest busts, if not the biggest bust in the NFL history. Raise your hand if you think that's fair. I don't. Because we look at the Carolina Panthers as a whole, they're terrible. O-line's terrible. He doesn't have a lot of weapons. He came out as a rookie with all these high expectations coming off a Heisman year, and we're gonna just throw this young dude under the bus and call him a bust, dude? I don't think that's fair at all. I think we gotta be realistic about the situation. Look at Sam Darnold, what he's done since he left Carolina. Look at Baker Mayfield on what he's done since he left Carolina. People were trying to write Baker Mayfield off the moment he got into Carolina and he was playing. They're saying this guy sucks. He's a buzz. Da 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 da. No, maybe we look at the Carolina Panthers as a whole and say this isn't a Bryce Young problem. This is a Carolina Panthers problem. You know what I mean? Because in reality, I feel like that's really what it is. He went 18 for 26, threw for 84 yards, had 1 interception. And is that all Bryce Young? No. Does he play a part in that? Yes, but it's also a team game. I saw Adam Thielen come out. He said something awesome. And this is what you want to see in athletics. Adam Thielen came out and said, this isn't a Bryce Young thing. He's a great player, but this is all of us. I think we all need to look ourselves in the mirror and see how we could be better and if we can have some urgency on being better. Because look, dog, like I get Stephen A's got to say things to, you know, get the clicks, get the viewers. Sometimes I wonder if these cats say things that they truly believe deep down, because I don't know how we could be hammering that bust button, pause, saying bust on a kid like this in year 2, in week 2, when we already know the Panthers suck. They lost Christian McCaffrey, you know, Luke Kuechly, is it Luke Kuechly? Yeah, Kuechly. He retired. Like, the Panthers, ever since that core that went to the Super Bowl all left, they've been stinking, dude. And you're giving a young rookie quarterback last year the reins to a shitty franchise. It makes sense why they're bad. You know what I mean? He has no guidance. He didn't have anyone in there to really show him the ropes. Andy Dalton. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's bad, but I'm just saying, like, he is the system, but at the same time, he didn't really have time to learn a system. It's like, okay, here you go. Get us to the playoffs, where it's like, let's be realistic about this. The Panthers are probably 2-3 years out from right now from being competitive. They got to draft. They got to trade. They got to do a lot of things, a lot of different things on both sides of the ball to be competitive. The defense gave up 26 points. That's not too bad for the NFL. The defense seemed like they didn't do too bad, but the offense, it's not a Bryce Young thing, dude. And I hate how these people just attack these young quarterbacks and these young players because they want to start talking bust and underachievement because it gets the clicks, where it's like, what are we doing, man? Let's be realistic about this. I'm not saying I competed at the highest level, but I also competed at a high level in terms of playing college basketball. And so I got to understand sitting back, and I wasn't the guy by any means. I was never the guy, but I got to sit back and watch. I was on good teams and I was on teams that were underachieved. I was on teams that had good talent. We just didn't know how to play well with one another, play team basketball. And I understand what goes into a winning season and a losing season. And it's not just one person, right? It's an accountability thing that goes across the whole program. In this case, a whole organization. And a lot of different things need to happen in order to stay competitive. Jackson's saying, my prediction, 49ers let Purdy walk and get Bryce Young on some BS contract, and we'd have to live this again. My Chargers are looking good. Hey, Chargers are looking good, but hey, dude, well, exactly. So, Jax, let's frame it right there. Let's start the conversation right there. Would Bryce Young do the same thing as Brock Purdy if he was in that system Brock Purdy's in? Would Bryce Young be successful? Absolutely. Who would Brock Purdy be if he was on the Carolina Panthers? We wouldn't know. We wouldn't be talking about Brock Purdy. He wouldn't be a starting quarterback in this league, in my opinion. But he kind of got lucky and the dominoes fell the right way in San Francisco in order for him to get that spot. But look at the weapons Brock Purdy has. Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, all an offensive play calling guru in Kyle Shanahan. He has the keys to be successful, and he's just throwing out routes, slants. His deep ball is not even like the best, you know what I mean? But he has the tools around him to be successful. He has Trent Williams as his blind side. Give Trent Williams Bryce Young's blind side. You know what I mean? And this is exactly what I'm saying. It's all about the situation. And we got to understand what each situation is when we're talking about NBA draft bust, NFL draft bust, all those kinds of things, because people want to think like it's just one person, but it's not. You know what I mean? You put different people in different situations and they blossom. Baker Mayfield's a great example. What if the Browns stuck with Baker Mayfield, right? He brought him to the playoffs and won them. They beat the shit out of the Steelers like 4 or 5 years ago in the playoffs, and they won their first playoff game. Then he tore his shoulder labrum. And he tried to play with a torn shoulder labrum and he couldn't even throw. But they write him off, and we want to say, oh, Baker's done, da-da-da-da. He bounces around. You know, he goes to Carolina, doesn't work out. Carolina sucks, as we know. He goes to the Chargers. He actually does decent with the Chargers when Matt Stafford went down. Then he goes to the Buccaneers, and look what he did with the Buccaneers. Buccaneers, an already established team coming off the Brady era. Good line, good weapons, good defense. Baker Mayfield brought him to the playoffs last year. Now we're looking at Baker Mayfield in a completely different light. But we don't, like, the media doesn't want to have that conversation. The real ones in the media do, but they're not the ones running the show. They're the special guests on the show. They're not the guys ahead of it. The guys ahead and at the top, ESPN, Fox, CBS, all these kinds of different places, they're just making these hot takes. And to be honest, this is why I have a hard time with the media sometimes, because it's like, you guys, I don't even know if you truly believe that take, but it's just a clickbait. It's just clickbait. So how can we, apples to orange, like, what are we doing? Why are we trying to throw this young cat, Bryce Young, calling him a bust and saying all these things where we know the Panthers suck? You put Bryce Young on the 49ers, it's a different story. You put Brock Purdy on the Panthers, it's a different story. You know what I mean? Look at the New York Jets. Look at all the guys who left the New York Jets. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. They all moved on and did better because the Jets sucked. Their line sucked. They didn't have the weapons, and it is what it is, man. And everyone, I think the biggest thing for me is, like, we all got to understand the situation. And sometimes you can't have this conversation with cats who've never played athletics, especially at like a high level. You know what I mean? If it's college, competitive, like pro league, like whatever it is, like, some people just don't understand like what goes on behind the scenes and how situation means everything. Play calling means everything. System means everything. Culture of your organization and program. All that stuff matters. All of it matters, because if you don't have a good system, you don't have a good culture, you don't have good teammates, you don't have all these different things, little to be said, you don't have the weapons, you might not be competitive, and you're kind of in that rebuild. But you put a former Heisman player in that position and think he can be Houdini and make it happen, like, it's just not realistic. Like, if you put Aaron Rodgers or you put Tom Brady or somebody, you put Jalen Hurts on the Panthers, I don't think he's going to do that well. You know what I mean? And some of these teams are stacked, some of them not, but, like, man, I hate it. And I absolutely hate how the media really portrays some of these situations, because it's not accurate and it's just clickbait. It seems like, why don't we try and I get it, we criticize, like, the media is there to criticize. I agree with that, like, that's their right to do so, but also criticize with some humility, criticize, if that's the right word, criticize with understanding, like, hey, like, we know Bryce Young hasn't been playing the best, but it's not just a Bryce Young thing. But we sit here and we listen and we waste our time listening to these guys talk. And I even see it in the NBA. Like, you get these rookies who come in and you expect them to completely turn around, like, these organizations when they're 8, 19, 20, 21. Like, it's just not realistic, dude. Jackson saying, it's stupid, but situations are situational, if that makes sense. I mean, yeah, dude, like, I totally get it. And I guess that's really what it's all about. But it just like it just bugs me a little bit, because a lot of people are blessed with those situations. A lot of legends that we know today, NFL, NBA, shoot, even the MLB, are blessed with really, really, really good situations. You know what I mean? And some of the dudes we know today might not be who they are if it wasn't for that good situation. Brady with Belichick. The biggest thing I always think, would Brady be the same without Belichick in that Patriots team, those teams? At first, maybe not, but you know, who knows? It's very rare that we find a guy right away who's be able to take a trash team in his rookie year, sophomore year, and take them to the top. You know, those guys are very, very rare. LeBron James, Luka, like those kinds of cats. Kobe kind of got put in a good situation too. He had Shaq, you know what I mean? But that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it just depends. Situations are situational. But further to be said, I'm happy that the NFL season's rolling. It seems like a lot of teams are trying to figure it out. A lot of teams are up to par on their expectations. A lot of teams are so far underachieving. One thing that stood out to me, again, situations. Look at the Saints. They beat the piss out of the Cowboys, and people were trying to write Derek Carr off last year. I was. Could this be just a strong 2 weeks for Derek Carr? Very well could be. But he's looking like he's playing MVP caliber football, and the Saints, with that freaking loaded offense that they have, they're balling, dude. Buccaneers, they beat the Lions. Jets beat the Titans. The Raiders beat the Ravens. Look at the Ravens. They've dropped, what are they, 0-2? Yeah, Ravens are 0-2. Steelers, look, they're winning. They beat the Broncos. Broncos suck, though. Eagles lost to the Falcons. You know, okay, so let's go right here. This is the other part of the NFL I kind of wanted to get into. The Chicago Bears. They writ off Justin Fields. Again, this is the problem for me. This is the problem with me. Oh, we got Kurtz in the chat. Baker Mayfield, perfect example of situation are situational. Exactly. Look at Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. What's the difference between the two on the Bears? What's the difference? Justin Fields, a sophomore last year. I'm pretty sure last year was his second year in the league. This is his third year. Maybe last year was his third year in the league, right? Look at what happened last year and look at what's going on now. Justin Fields started off the season last year slow. Then he turned it around, and we were looking at the Bears like, hey, they might have a shot at making the playoffs, or at least they're turning it around. You know what I mean? But they say, no, Justin Fields is the problem. We're going to get him out of here, and we're going to get this cat from USC, Caleb Williams, who's legit, and he's the real deal. But now look at the situation, dude. Last year, he didn't throw for a single touchdown. Then last week, did he throw for a touchdown? Not last year. Week 1, he didn't throw for a single touchdown. Let's see. Did he throw for anything? No, he didn't throw a single touchdown in week 2 either. He had 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, right? Isn't that similar to what we were seeing with Justin Fields? So what does that tell us from my perspective? What does that tell us? Does that tell us, hey, maybe the situation maybe this wasn't just a Justin Fields problem. Maybe this was a Bears problem. And maybe the Bears should have kept Justin Fields and drafted someone with that number 1 pick or whatever pick Caleb Williams went with. Get an O-line. Get some, I mean, he has decent weapons offensively. You know, a lot of different things play into this, but we want to scapegoat people, especially these young dudes, man. These young kids out here trying to make a living who are ballers. They're all ballers. But it's all about your situation. Fields over Wilson for the Steelers. Absolutely. I think if I'm the Steelers, I'm giving that to Justin Fields. Young. He has the talent. Let him figure out the system. Let him get his feet under him. That might be your franchise quarterback. You know what I mean? Dual threat. He can kind of do it all. Like Russell Wilson, unfortunately, I think his days are done unless they end up trading him or Justin Fields gets hurt. But like, again, it's a prime example that like it wasn't a Justin Fields problem. It was a Bears problem. In my opinion, did he run one in? I'm not seeing he ran one in. I see Herbert had one touchdown. And yeah, they had one touchdown, one rushing touchdown, and they had two field goals. They had 2 field goals. So again, I don't know, man. That's just where I get a little frustrated because we sit here and we listen to these guys. I see these clips pull up on my socials. Oh, Justin Fields sucks or this, that, and the other. Where now, look, we got Caleb Williams in there who's a stud. I think if anyone can do something in Chicago, it's Caleb Williams. But I also think Justin Fields could have done it, right? My opinion. But, you know, it is what it is. And that's unfortunate. Like, the culture of professional sports, like these franchises so eager to win, and unfortunately dudes get scapegoated when it's really not their problem. And part of the reason is, and I don't know the owners of these organizations, but just from my perspective on some of the teams that I like, some owners don't know what the hell they're doing. They overstep, they overreach. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Like, when we got our new owner after Robert Sarver, or whatever the hell his name was, got out, our new owner kind of overstepped James Jones and made some trades where it's like, hey, dude, let the GM do their job. You're the owner. You can figure out everything else, but let everyone else do their job, right? But owners get antsy. They scapegoat. They do all these things. They make these trades where in reality, sometimes I'm like, dude, you're hitting the panic button too soon. Sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture and be like, dog, we got 2-3 years until we're good, right? We're not going to be good right now, whether we got the number 1 pick or not. Chicago Bears are a perfect example of that. Can they turn it around? Absolutely. But you need an O-line. You need confidence. You need a lot of different things to be successful in professional sports. And it's just... It's just what frustrates me in the media today, because we just listen to these cats talk, and sometimes I'm like, you're talking out of your ass, dog. Like, honestly, I believe some of these guys are smarter than what they say. They just say it for the clicks, and it's unfortunate. And it's crazy for me because I feel like there's been a shift in like sports media since I was a little dude, in how they approach these things, like these talk shows where guys just don't need a Suns heartbreak. Hey, Jax, hey, I'm gonna do a whole video on the Phoenix Suns when that time comes up. I don't think we're gonna have a heartbreak this year. People disagree with me. They think we're doomed. If we have, this is what's gonna happen, Jax. I'll just say it now, and I'm gonna do a more in-depth video later. This is what's gonna happen with the Suns. They're gonna give them till All-Star break, right? If things aren't good around All-Star break, you probably ship KD out, or you get Beal to waive his no trade clause and get him out of there. But I think the Suns are in a good position to be way better than they were last year. We got Tyus Jones. We got we got an actual true point guard now. You know what I mean? You got Nurkic at the 5, KD at the 4, Beal at the 3, Book at the 2, Tyus Jones at the 1. You got Grayson Allen coming off the... Who? Let's look here. Let's look at the Phoenix Suns roster. You got Grayson Allen coming off the bench. We still got Bol. I think Bol's huge. We got Mason Plumlee, a backup big who's proven when he gets minutes, he's a double-double machine and can score. We got some dope picks in the draft. We got Ryan Dunn, and I believe that Jalen Bridges, I believe. We still got Josh Okogie, Damian Lee. I think the Suns are going to be all right, dude. I really do. And I think with that big 3, with everyone around them, I don't see how we can't make the Western Conference Finals and get after that. Bradley Beal does stress me out, dude. He stresses me out. But again, so I can relate this to this conversation. You look at the Phoenix Suns last year and what people say, this is a disaster, blow it up. I even said that, but not from their kind of perspective, right? I'm thinking, look, Beal was hurt majority of the year. Bradley Beal was hurt. He was wobbling around. He hurt his back. You know, it wasn't good. And so the Suns were doing all right until Beal came back, and then other injuries kind of happened. But then it's like, look, these guys didn't have enough time to gain chemistry. No, hell no. No, we don't get Cat. There's no way. I don't want Cat either. And I'm not saying I don't like Cat, but I just don't like his game. He settles for the three too much. You know, he does rebound he does rebound well. It's hard to split rebounds with Gobert, but I don't think that's the answer. You know what I mean? I think you ship off Beal, right? And you just need role players, dude. Like, you got KD and Book. You don't need another star, and this is exactly it. The owner came in and he said, let's go get Brad Beal. But what'd we give up for Brad Beal, dude? How come? Well, imagine it for Brett. Instead of we got rid of Ayton in that whole freaking deal. What if we got Drew Holiday? How come we couldn't end up with Drew Holiday? Imagine if the Suns ended up with him. Less money, and you have that extra money to fill in spots. But you bring in another max. We have 3 max contracts. That's the problem. But again, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button. It's just like, these guys had a full year to kind of figure it out. There was injuries and stuff. So like next year, by the time March comes around, I'd hope they're a well-oiled machine, bearing any injuries, you know? And so we got a true point guard in Tyus Jones, who's one of the most efficient assist-to-turnover ratio cats in the league. He's led the league a couple times in the last couple years. But again, the media wanted to blow it up. They said it wasn't good, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, let's be realistic. And this is the thing. They don't always want to be realistic. Let's be realistic about the situation. They didn't have enough time. Beal was hurt. KD was out a period of time. Book was out a period of time. Nurkic was out a period of time. We had multiple different lineups. And guess what? They scapegoated the coach. Like, Vogel, was he the best? No, I didn't like his offense. The offense sucked. Like, defensively, they weren't terrible. They weren't the best. I think Budenholzer is going to get... Yeah, here we are stressing the Suns. I think Budenholzer is going to right this ship. But it's like, let's just be realistic about last year. First-year coach, you bring in another max contract. He was hurt majority of the year. And when you just watch the Suns, it just looked like their chemistry wasn't there. But the media, they don't want to have that conversation. They just start scapegoating and pointing fingers where it's like, let's look at the situation. What is the situation? Okay, the Suns just blew up their roster from 2 years ago when they made the finals because they panicked because we lost in the semis to the Mavs embarrassingly. But guess what? Who was hurt? Chris Paul. Who was hurt in the finals? Chris Paul. Who was checked out? DeAndre Ayton. Both series, both years. You know what I mean? That was the situation. They blow it up. Yes, you might want to trade those guys, but for what we got, it just wasn't worth it. You ended up getting rid of Mikal. Anyways, I'm gonna save this for another video. Because I'm going in on it. But yeah, man. You know, UFC Noche 306, dope card. Sphere was awesome. The NFL, it's not a Justin Fields problem. It's a Bears problem. It's not a Bryce Young problem. It's a Panthers problem. We need to stop scapegoating all these people, man. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's not just one person, right? Especially the rookies who are coming in. And I hate the word bust, dude. I hate it because, again, we've seen a lot of busts due to the situation. They don't have the team around them to be successful. Why is Brock Purdy so successful? Look at who he has. Look at his O-line. Look at his old coordinator. Did Justin Fields have that in Chicago? Nope. Does Bryce Young have that in Carolina? Nope. You know, and that's why I got on here to talk about it, man. I got a new setup here. I got the mic. You know, this is kind of a little test run. I just want to get on here and talk, see how the mic's working, see how this is all looking. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. That's just my thoughts on the whole thing. But you know what, dude? It is what it is. Oh, I hope that the Suns kept Isaiah Thomas, by the way. I hope we kept Isaiah Thomas. I love Isaiah Thomas. I don't know why we didn't give him more run. But hey guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Getting a little test run on here. I'm gonna keep this one up. I don't know if I'm gonna post it on YouTube. But let me know what you think. Hey, please, and again, like when I come out with some clips, I will make some clips out of this video. Please share them. Please, if you're not, subscribe to the YouTube. You know, like my vids, do all that. It goes a long way for the little algorithm, the matrix algorithm they got going on YouTube. You know, we're not trying to be big. Well, kinda, not too big, but we're trying to do a little something here, man. And I got a lot more to come. I'm getting settled into the crib. I'm gonna pimp out that wall, and the setup's gonna look a lot better going forward. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. It's all love. Jax, I love you, dude. I got the QI10. I'll send you some vids. Actually, after this video, I'm gonna send you some pictures of it. I thought I did. I may not have done that. I was thinking about it. But I love y'all for tuning in. Thank you. Kurtz, thanks for tuning in. Hunt, thanks for tuning in. Zach, you're the man. Hey, go follow Zach Cloud Photography on Instagram. His stuff's amazing. He's the one editing my videos when I throw them up on the YouTube. He's the one making my clips. This dude's an absolute wizard. He's dope, dude. Like a lot of this, to be honest, a lot of this wouldn't be possible without Zach, because he makes this stuff look legit. You know, and I honestly don't have the expertise and sometimes don't have the time to do the work that he does, and I'm really grateful for it. So follow the page, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, most importantly. I love y'all. I'll catch y'all. Take it easy.